everyone. This is the Popcorn Heroes review of The Devil All the Time, a Netflix movie. I am Armando. With me today is Pedro. What's going on, Pedro?
Shilling, man, shilling.
Nice. So, Pedro, we saw another of Netflix's latest movie. I think came out sometime late September, if I'm not mistaken.
September 16.
Oh, there you go. Mid-September then. This movie called The Devil All the Time. It has Robert Pattinson in it and Tom Holland, and it has Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
These people.
Bill Skarsgård.
And Bill Skarsgård. And I was watching this movie. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was seeing him on screen.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't get it.
I was actually watching to see if his eye would kind of swerve to the other, because he has that eye, the lazy eye. I was like, "Is your lazy eye there?" I'm like, "Nope, it's not."
I kept seeing it. I kept looking for his mouth. So whenever he smiled, I'm like, "Oh, there's a little bit of it right
there." That droopy lip.
Because he does that lip thing. He does that lip thing,
yeah.
And he does it. I was just like, "Oh my god!" So whenever he smiled, I was kind of like, "Oh, it was coming out there." I see it.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Right. He did do that. So
I kept, I was watching him on screen. I just kept thinking it. I couldn't get it over. I couldn't get over it, But yes, Pedro, as we usually do, you started off with the premise. Let us know what is about.
This premise is actually really tough. It's pretty much these two different towns that are apparently hours away from each other, but somehow a bunch of these characters from those towns meet up and shit happens constantly over the course of I don't know how many years. And it pretty much follows these separate stories all combining, and it's just fucking crazy. That's the best way I could do it without getting into like any specifics and spoilers, because there's so many fucking characters in this movie.
It's a lot of characters.
But that's the gist of it. It's just coincidences and randomness coming together. Yep. In was it Alabama? I don't even remember where it was, but it's pretty much like middle of fucking nowhere, small town.
Was it Virginia?
Maybe Ohio. There it is.
Ohio.
Meade, Ohio, and Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio, which is a really funny name. Knock'em-Stiff.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Pleasure. Thank you for that lovely premise.
Thank you.
So, as we usually do, we do 1 out of 5, our small thoughts about the movie. And this one has to be extremely small thoughts, because if you talk about anything, it's essentially spoiled at this point. You can't talk about this movie without getting into it. But let us know, Pedro, what you thought. 1 out of 5 and your thoughts.
I'm gonna give this one a 4. I actually really liked it. I just don't know if it's a movie I would watch again. It's one of those that's so mentally draining, and it's just such a pessimistic, dark movie that you kind of just feel drained by the end of it. Or relieved, depending on, how you felt about the ending. But it's I thought it was a really good movie. The acting was on point. The way that the script was, like the dialogue, I thought felt very natural. And the way they combined these different stories, where they all connected and made sense. Like even little details that they would introduce in the beginning that you think, whatever, there's no point for that. It all came around, at one point. So it rewarded you for like paying attention to like certain things, certain details, and like relations with people and things. I don't know. It was just it was just a hell of a like dark puzzle of a movie, and I enjoyed watching it all like unfold. And Tom Holland really surprised me. I mean, I knew he was a good actor, but I'd never seen him. I know there was that movie about the tsunami that he was famous for before Spider-Man.
Yeah, but he was a child.
Yeah, he was practically a baby there. I never watched it, so I didn't really see his acting chops outside of Spidey. So seeing him here as someone else, another, like a serious role, I really like seeing that. And I thought Robert Pattinson did great again. He's been like killing it lately. He's becoming one of my favorite newer actors right now because I think his range is very good, and I thought he like killed that accent. So yeah, those to me were the two standouts of the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you that this movie is a 4 out of 5, and I definitely agree with what you said about I'm not watching this movie again because I definitely won't watch this again. And you know how there's some movies that you want to introduce to people or show them. Even if I were to show this to somebody, I wouldn't watch it again. This movie, it's a very, very heavy movie, and it's just very like sad. Everybody's story is sad. Everybody's story has a sad ending, the sad life that starts off with so much promise, but then it just ends up getting fucked up because of whatever reason that happens to them. So it's just it was a very heavy movie. It was, as I was watching it, it just felt over like there's so much weight on you when you're watching it. It's just kind of like, oh man, these characters are just kind of like, wow, like your life sucks, you know. And but I do like how you get all these characters, all these lives, and how the last few minutes it all just kind of makes sense. Like the whole movie, like I was telling you, Pedro, this whole movie was such a setup for the end, where it all just kind of, oh shit, it all kind of starts making sense of what happens. So it is a very, draining movie, like you said, and the acting was definitely top notch, and Tom Holland was great. Everybody was great, man. Sebastian Stan was great. Even the
was,
like you said, Pattinson was great with his accent. He killed it. Even Tom Holland did a good job with his accent. Sometimes it felt like he was using his Spider-Man accent, but then other times he kind of like, did that Southern thing also.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I don't know why they would do a Southern thing if it was in Ohio. So I wasn't really sure about that.
I'm gonna be honest, I actually don't know the accent in Ohio, so in my mind I was like, oh yeah, that's just middle of fucking nowhere, I guess. But Ohio technically isn't Midwest.
No. I think it is. Is it next to it's next to Michigan.
No, it's yeah, it is, but that's not mid. That's like very north. It's like almost Detroit. Ohio is touching one of the Great Lakes, so
isn't that Midwest?
It's not really. It's not Midwest. It's north of Midwest. When I think of Midwest, I think of like Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky.
No, that's not Midwest. That's the South.
Oh
Midwest,
wait,
Midwest is like Illinois.
My bad. You're right.
Indiana.
You're right. You're 100% right. It's more like, yeah, I was thinking east. I fucking
Missouri.
lost track of my east and west. Yeah.
That's Midwest.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Kansas.
I guess they could have some sort of drawl to them, but now that you say that, I thought I was in the South this whole time watching this movie. I guess I wasn't really paying attention at the beginning when they were presenting it.
Yeah, when they presented the map.
Yeah. For some reason, I kept thinking I was in the South, like Virginia or some shit like that. Anyways, but overall, like everybody did a really good job. Even Bill Skarsgård did a really good job. Even as shit. I was gonna mention the scene, but there was an emotional scene he had, which was pretty crazy. But yeah, overall, would you recommend this movie, Pedro?
I would, actually. If you're into a certain type of movie. I had mentioned earlier that this movie reminded me of the writings of Cormac McCarthy. And he's famous for writing like pretty much dark, depressing movies. He's known for writing No Country for Old Men and The Road. And I feel like if you're into those types of movies or those books, I would recommend it. I'd be like, hey, give this a watch.
Yeah.
But
I think
if you can't watch anything like sad or depressing, they'll be like, nah, man, stay away from this. This will fuck your day up.
Yeah. I can't. I could only recommend this to people who like dramas and who like that you know, a movie that literally doesn't go anywhere, because this movie is just pure conversations. It just it's just a snapshot of these people's lives, you know,
right?
And it doesn't really. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just conversations and seeing what happens to these people. So if you're into that type of movie, yeah, I'll definitely recommend it. And if you could hold your, and if you pay attention, like a person who could pay attention and you know gets engrossed in conversations, this movie is for you for sure. Apart from that, I think you should just stay away. This is not a movie for entertainment. I guess you could put it. This is not to be entertained. This is more of just kind of like a character study type of movie. But yeah. But let's get into it, Pedro. Let's get into the spoilers, because I think the only way we could talk about this movie is getting into it. There's just too much shit happening to talk about, but you just gotta conversate. Anyways, if you haven't seen this movie, stop where you are. If you don't care, keep along. If you have, let's get it going. Pedro, spoilers ahead. Spoilers.
All right, here we go. All right, so when I started watching it, I was like, man, I like the voice of whoever's narrating it. I'm like, I wonder who the narrator is. So I looked it up, and it's the writer of the book.
Oh,
he's
shit!
narrating his own movie. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool.
That is awesome. He did a great job.
That was pretty. I know. I was like, man, this guy sounds like he should be narrating more like shit. And then there it was. I was like, oh, okay. Surprised I didn't recognize it.
Fascinating job.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the way it was narrated also kind of felt almost like Coen Brothers ish too. That it's just setting you up to all these kooky characters. But yeah, right in the beginning, you get Bill Skarsgård, you know, coming back from World War II, and just seeing, you know, how he just totally engulfs himself into religion after, you know, getting with his wife. And then, you know, she gets cancer, and then it was just crazy seeing that transformation and seeing how it later affects Tom Holland's character. His dad just fucking lost it, dude. And it's crazy because, like you said, everything starts off so perfect, and then that's how it is. Every time there's a good moment in the movie, it just goes right down the shitter to the point of like, whoa,
hope.
Whenever there's hope, it just gets totally eaten up completely. So,
so that scene, that emotional scene he had when he was making his son, you know, pray, and when the wife died, like I thought that was all so emotional. And when he killed the dog, I'm like I think he just did a great job overall in just this small piece he had of this film, and I think he just killed it. And you felt the pain, you know. It's not like you were just watching him suffer. You felt the pain. You felt why he was that way. And like he did a really good job with that.
Yeah,
so he portrayed that.
Yeah, same. And I like how everything was connected. So, you know, you see that fucking crazy scene of the dog's body just like rotting, and then the dad kills himself, and then Tom Holland is a little kid who watches that. So it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna grow up and not give a fuck about religion and praying. Like that shit destroyed his entire life. Like wishing, you know, praying for someone to make it all better. It's like, no, I got to make my own shit better. I got to fight my own fights, which is, now that I brought that up, that was one of my favorite scenes, which was, funny enough, the character's favorite moment, where it's like he went in and he just fucked those guys up, and he's like, you got to pick your time. You got to pick your moment.
Yeah.
And then
that was a very strong scene.
And how that plays into later, where it's like, oh yeah, but then of course that does a dark turn, because it's like there's a consequence for everything. So there's just so much. You couldn't get any rest in the movie, like none at all. It was just brutal.
Yeah, every decision led to something. Every decision.
Yeah.
Because if you think about how his mom was trying to set him up with that girl at the beginning in the church.
Oh, that's right.
You know how he didn't pay attention to her, but then she kind of ended up getting fascinated by the preacher that came in.
The fucking crazy Dursley, dude.
Yeah, dude, he did such a great job, dude.
He did great. And especially what we had read it at the same time, that apparently that was real fucking spiders he threw on his face.
It's crazy, dude.
That dude's nuts. Crazy, I'm like, nope, no thanks.
Nope, I ain't doing that shit. Not even for a film. But yeah, the decision he made him not trying with this girl led her to get married to this guy who felt so deep into the dark side of religion, and
right.
And he ends up killing his wife, that girl that could have been with Bill Skarsgård, you know. So it's kind of like shit, dude. So much decisions people make lead to different things, you know.
Yeah, it really is crazy that it all started with Bill Skarsgård's decision of whether he gets with that girl or drives all the way back to the diner. Like that's what set the whole movie off.
But even in the diner, dude, the decision of this other guy letting Bill Skarsgård sit there instead of sitting on the other side causes the reaction of which waitress he deals with. I feel like whichever waitress that he dealt with was gonna end up leading that life with him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, possibly. That's true, because they ended up being the serial killer couple. So yeah, it is just crazy. It did a really good job. Like the only movie that I know of, like that comes to mind right now, that kind of brought up to your attention the idea of cause and effect was like there's that scene in Benjamin Button where like the wife I think gets hit by a car, and then it starts going through the moments of the day and how each thing caused the chain reaction to let her get hit. I felt like this whole movie did that for just all these fucking crazy moments. And when the movie's over, you're just like, damn, if it weren't for Bill Skarsgård, like none of this would have happened. Like
yeah.
like none of it would have happened. I'm sure other crazy shit would have happened because they were all fucked up people.
For sure.
But just that form of events, it's just like, wow, that was a fucking exhausting ride, man. That's why I felt drained by the end of it. I was just like, oh my God, so much going on.
It's his decision that kind of kicked it off, and then just things kept kind of falling into place after that, you know. It
was just shocker after shocker. Like I did not see anything coming in this movie. Like ever. Oh no, it was always a surprise.
At all.
Like you said, when that woman went with the preacher, the crazy preacher guy, and he just fucking calls her into the woods and just stabs her in the neck so that he can resurrect her. It's like, what the fuck? What?
Who fucking thinks that, dude? Who thinks that? It's insane. As I say, it's the dark side of religion. Who people think that they're so connected that they could channel, you know, God's graces or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like this whole movie, maybe not every character, now that I think about it, but a good chunk of the characters, I would say half of the characters, all had to do with that, with just the blindness for religion, that you don't have control over yourself, that like God has control over you. Is that blindness is what caused a lot of the shit. The only thing I can think of is maybe the serial killers would have been the same, and maybe the corrupt Bucky, I'm gonna call him that, probably would have been the same. Those are probably the only other two stories that wouldn't have changed.
Yeah, because then you lead into the fact that, you know, this kid's Tom Holland's grandparents raised the baby girl from the preacher that Bill Skarsgård should have been with, but she ends up going with the preacher. They got a daughter. That daughter gets raised by the uncle and the grandma, essentially, because it's the uncle and the grandma.
Yeah. And here's another fucking crazy chain reaction. So, you know, Tom Holland's raising this girl as her sister, and then he's doing everything he can to defend her. And in the one moment he's not there to be with her was because his dad taught him how to deal with bullies, and that was the opening that caused her downfall. So it's like, it's just irony completely. It's like, oh, I did this to save you, and then it's like that was what caused you to fucking lose it, because
it was the opening.
Then you met Batman and Robert Pattinson, you know.
Oh God. Yeah, and then Robert Pattinson, which is this flamboyant preacher who takes advantage of people. That's essentially
what a sleazebag, dude. from the very moment you meet him with the food, you're just like, what a piece of shit.
He's a televangelist, dude. He's essentially one of those televangelists. That's exactly what he is.
Absolutely.
And you know what's funny about you just mentioned the food thing? That it's funny how he put down all these poor people. I mean, the poor people, but he essentially loved it. And I think that's the reason why he put them down. And Tom Holland calls that out. He's like, yo, he just probably did that shit so nobody would eat your shit because he liked it so much that he wanted it for himself. I'm like, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, he didn't want to bring them up. He wanted to still make it like he was the hero. He's like, I'm going to make the sacrifice so that none of you will have to, deal with this. I will. He's pretty much trying to make himself as like a Jesus. Like, oh, I'm going through the pain for you. Like, oh, man. Totally crazy. It's just so funny to see funny, sad, everything. To see like the warped versions of, and of course this movie's clearly an exaggeration of tons of things, but you see all that in the real world.
You probably saw that shit even more back then in that time period.
Could be, because now everything's a little more filmed and a little more called out. We're like, oh, this guy's fucking nuts, and everyone you would think at least. Yeah,
you know what's crazy is that like. In that time period, because I think maybe until the 70s or 80s, how murder was just so easy to get done in that time period.
I think that all the time, man.
like you could just kill somebody and then drop them off in the middle of nowhere and nobody would ever know. Like how like that's insane. You know what I'm saying? Like how weird this time period was and how isolated everybody was, especially when you're in these small towns that you're far from everyone. You're living in literally the forest and somebody could come and kill you and no one would ever know.
Right. And then the only cop is like one or two people that probably don't give a shit, or they're probably in league with the one that does the killing or whatever. It's just all cover-ups and all the time. I remember when me and Shanti were driving through Chicago and we went 2 hours out and it was the middle of fucking nowhere in the farm. And all we could think about was, man, how many people are dead or had got murdered and are just buried here and no one found out? Like, that's the shit that went through our minds.
Yeah.
So, 100% I was thinking the same thing during this movie. I'm just like, man, that's fucking nuts.
Because look at the serial killer couple. How many people they killed and they never got caught. You know what I'm saying? And they purposely go to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, sure. To be fair, they're fictional, but we know enough about real serial killers to know there were plenty that went unsolved and happened in those middle of nowhere places. So it's out there, man. Like, this movie was a dark caricature of everything that happens now. It's just turned to 11. Or is it?
Yeah. All right. It's insane, man.
I liked another plot. The serial killer couple ties into the sheriff because she is sisters with Sebastian Stan, with Bucky. But of course, he just worries about getting reelected.
Optics.
So he just wants to cover up anything bad. And he's in with the mob, and that's a whole other plot, which I actually really like that scene where he goes in and he like pops them with the gun.
Oh man,
because that's the thing. Remember, I was telling you Chekhov's gun. Don't bring up anything if you're not going to use it later. When they brought up, the gun, untraceable bullets, I'm like, okay, whatever. And then he ends up using that gun to take him out, so that he doesn't owe anyone. That now he's free.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like Tom Holland, Bill Skarsgård. When he gave his uncle the gun,
the Luger,
brought it from war, and then he gives it to Tom Holland, and then Tom Holland uses that to kill the preacher.
Yeah, so you're right.
And then that same gun kills the serial killer couple.
Yeah, that's right. And then actually that gun killed everyone because it even got Bucky at the end in the shootout.
Oh yeah, it got Bucky. You're right. Damn, that gun killed so much people in a short time span.
That gun destroyed. It came from Germany and just destroyed that whole town.
Yeah, that was insane, man. So that was an interesting, turn of events. How the girl got pregnant from the preacher taking advantage of her.
Yeah.
And that scene where the narrator was narrating it, like, oh, she's gonna do it, but she realizes that the grandma wouldn't care, and so when she's realizing that she's trying to get off, she kills herself by mistake.
She slips. Yeah.
I was just kind of like, oh my god, that was so gut wrenching, man.
And that is the moments of hope, and then it just fucking guts you, dude, and you're just like, oh my god, you fucking, like, I literally out loud went, you fucking asshole, like, and I was thinking of the writer, and I'm like, you knew what you were doing, you piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. And then when Tom Holland comes in, he did an amazing job of how crazy he went in that scene. It's like, it was touching, like I felt, it's another scene again that I felt the pain in. I'm just like, oh damn, like I feel what you're going through. I understand it, you know.
He's holding her up. It's fucking nuts. Like, you're like,
and
well,
he's
she's
kicking
dead already,
the door at the same time and screaming. I'm just kind of like, oh my god, like he did it all. Like, dude, that was a very emotional undertaking he did there, and he pulled it off. It was great. It was fascinating. And you know what's funny? Because like when he was killing the preacher, when he was about to kill the preacher, he was having a conversation with him about reciting what the preacher does. Yeah, like the movie never gives you that time, the time period. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, because he's like, I've been following you for a few weeks or some shit that he says to him, or something, you know. So you don't see that time. You just see that instance that the preacher does do that, and then it gets called back when he's about to get killed. Yeah, I thought that was
you
very
see him follow him in two different instances. You see him following him. He follows him when he sees the car, the moment with the car where he keeps the panties, and then where he follows him home and the wife like is giving him head. But yeah, you're right. That's all you see. Of course, now you know from the conversation that translated into weeks, and I'm just like, damn, that dude was savoring his revenge. Yep.
Well, like his dad said, you gotta choose your time.
You pick your moment. You choose your time. So yeah, you see it all. It all just played in, like everything played in together. I actually really like that scene where he confronted him, where it was like he was gonna just shoot him. Remember, he just goes in and he has the gun, and then he starts shaking, and then he goes, "Wait, let me savor this." And he sits down, and then that's when he.
Do you think it was savoring, or was it him trying to catch fortitude to actually do it?
You're right. You're right. I think it was too, because he was calling it out so that he can hear, I guess, the excuses of the preacher, to show, like, as he was talking, that's when he started seeing the monstrosity of the preacher, and that's when he was like, all right, now I know you're calling my sister a fucking liar, like, no, that's it, game over. And then right when he's gonna run, that's when he gets the courage to like do it. He's like, oh shit, this guy's gonna get away, and then he does it.
Did you think he well, because you know the preacher, when the preacher is talking about lies, and like, you know, what that moment he was preaching in that church, and then Tom Holland's when his sister was sick.
Oh yeah.
Do you think Tom Holland in that moment kind of recognized, or he was just kind of like, oh, this guy's crazy?
I don't think he recognized it. We knew that he was bringing that up specifically because of the sister, but I don't think Tom Holland put two and two together yet, because he didn't realize it until she died, and then they found out she was pregnant. That's when he started like filling in the blanks, like, whoa, it's got to be this fucker, you know? Yeah. But that was just for us. That was for the viewer, so we can go, man, what a piece of shit, you know?
He was a total piece of shit, dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that was pretty cool. And what I really, but you know what's funny about this movie? That it ends in hope.
It doesn't, though.
Why? What do you say?
So the reason why I said you can get optimistic or pessimistic ending, it ends in hope he escapes. But then he starts thinking about the Vietnam War, and people got drafted. So you're like, shit, is he just going to go to Vietnam and then die? And then that's it? And then be like his dad, like when his dad was at war? Or even worse, I even went an extra step. I said, he's going to go to war. He's going to come back fucked up and be just like his dad. So there's so many ways to think about that ending. Either he dies in war, or he gets fucked up like his dad from the war, or the good ending, which he does escape. But I don't know. There was so many. There were so many threads.
The movie itself gave you those options.
Yeah, it does.
because as he's falling asleep, he's thinking about all those things. He's like, oh, I'm gonna have a family, or I could just go to the army and enlist and go to Vietnam. And he just starts playing all these different scenarios in his head, and then he falls asleep. So it's funny how the movie gives you that, like, hey, you create your own story at this point.
Right. But if there's anything about the theme of the movie or the story itself, it's that if a story goes on long enough, it always has a bad ending, or the reverse of the saying. I think the saying was every story is a happy ending if you end it quick enough, or something like that. So I feel like this movie is that. It's like, oh, let's end it here. But we know it can keep going, and then here's where it can go, you know? I thought it was a very clever way to end it. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad, I know we had talked about it already, but I'm glad he didn't die in that shootout.
Yeah.
Because that would have been too much.
Oh, there you go. Let's talk about that shootout. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh my God. So
the serial killers, right?
Yeah. All right, so after Tom Holland kills the preacher, he's on the run, right, essentially. And it just so happens he gets picked up by the serial killer couple of all people he could have pitched a ride with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is insane. And I love how Tom Holland kind of started noticing some weird shit happening.
Already, yeah. I love that you, without any dialogue, just by his looks, you knew how smart he was. His brain was already cracking it up like, yeah, this ain't right.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with the way she was answering and the way he sounded all sarcastic, it's like, this is not a normal conversation.
Yep, exactly, yeah. So it gives you the thing that he's a smart character, essentially. Mm-hmm. You kind of noticed it from before, but this gives you an added layer, like, oh, he senses and knows things. Like, he's not dumb. And he notices the gun, and he starts getting his own gun ready, which is pretty cool. And then when the guy comes to, you know, force him to do whatever he wanted, he kicks the door open, he shoots him. The girl comes with the gun. They're pointing at each other, and at this moment they both shoot. And I was like, oh, that's it. Tom Holland's done. He's over with. You know, just like, shit, dude, what a ride. I was just like, what a ride, man. And then it does the flashback of how paranoid the serial killer guy was, and how he, but what's cool about this scene is that it gives you context to an earlier scene, because the girl wanted to run away,
right?
And so he's suspicious because of that, and that's the reason why in that scene that you get flashback after Tom Holland gets shot, the flashback
it makes sense
of him getting the girl's gun and taking and leaving it with blanks, and it was just like, oh man, it all came in to make sense. You know what I'm saying? It was beautiful.
Yeah. And there's also that moment of, like I said, the moment of like, oh, it's gonna turn out okay, and then it goes crazy, because even before that, she's thinking about killing her husband and running away with him.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's the whole sister hanging herself moment where you're like, oh, maybe they will team up against it, and then she changes her mind, and that's when she gets shot, and it's like, oh, damn.
And that's one scene I didn't understand, because she wants to get away. She calls the cops, and in that moment, she's thinking about killing him. So it's kind of like, why? You thought about it so much. Why would you, in that moment, not just put your gun away and walk away?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
I have no idea. I think it was just a mix of like everything going on, like, what the fuck do I do next or whatever, or like, is this kid gonna like turn against me? Like, I think her mentality was, I'd rather kill everyone and just start free, rather than, oh, let's keep this kid along and do it again. No, she wanted a whole new thing. It's like, this kid saw me, like, he knows what we've been doing. So I think it was more of her trying to clean the slate, and then she died.
Yeah. Well, why do you think Tom Holland took the negatives from her purse?
Oh, probably for proof that, like, if they say, oh, you killed these people, and then it's like, oh, well, these guys are fucking murderers. And it also tied into that they killed the crazy preacher in the beginning, their first kill, the one that they did
Yeah.
kind of accidentally. I mean, they were going to do it anyways, but the way they ended up doing it was accidentally.
Yeah,
So
very accidental.
it tied up that loose end. So somehow every single strand connected. So I thought that was cool.
And it's crazy how he kills the people who killed his sister's parents, mom, essentially.
Yeah. You're right.
Because those people, their first kill was the crazy preacher. That was
Right.
the dad of his sister, and he is the killer of her mother.
So in the end,
he ties up.
so in the end, Tom Holland kind of got revenge for everything. By the end, he got revenge for everything.
Essentially, yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. That it all revolved around him.
He closed the loop of the negative of his family.
Yeah, he closed the loop that his dad started.
Yeah. At this point,
Because there's that other saying that they always say, the sins of the father are inherited by the son, and it was inherited by him, and he was thankfully strong enough and smart enough to deal with it, and lucky enough because of the blanks. It was just a mix of everything.
Yeah. Shit, dude.
Yeah, it was. That's what I'm saying. The more you think about it, it's so well written.
Yeah. Wow, what a
And
crazy
I
movie.
was looking at this movie on Rotten Tomatoes, and they gave it like a 60 something, and I'm like, nah, dude, it should be more than that. It should be more than that. The only reason why we're not like, oh yeah, is because it really does make you feel down the entire movie.
Yeah. Makes you feel
And
terrible.
by the end, because I thought of all the endings. By the end, I was just like, yeah, it's nice, but is it? I still felt like,
Yeah, but by the end, I'm just glad Tom Holland survived all this.
yeah.
Because he's probably one of the only good characters in that movie that cared, was smart, and was actually like a good person who just was put in the wrong situations at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Wow.
So I'm saying overall, it was such a nice tight script. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what that other writer would do. But if it's anything like this one, it's probably going to be like another downer where you're just like, oh fuck.
No, at this point, yeah, I mean, the two movies you mentioned about him is fucking down as hell, anyways.
Well, it wasn't directly him, but I feel like it was based off of that. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So he wrote a book. So he wrote Devil All the Time in 2011. In 2008, he wrote a book called Knock 'em Stiff. So I wonder if which is the town. So I wonder if all of his books are in the same universe then.
Maybe.
Oh shit! It's where he's from. That's why.
Oh, damn.
It's where he's from.
Holy crap! That's weird.
It says he was born and raised in Knock 'em Stiff, Ohio. So, yeah. So I guess to answer your question, the accents have to be right because he was a part of the movie. And he was raised in it, so it has to be accurate. Like I would think he's there as like a creative head of the movie.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah, it has to be. It's kind of cool that he had his hands on it.
Yeah, it is very cool, especially as a narrator. You know what? I just mentioned something about Tom Holland. Do you think Tom Holland is a good person?
I think overall he's yeah. I would say he is a good person.
Because I said he was a good person. Okay.
He's just vengeful. Like, I guess the ultimate good person would be forgiving everything. But no, he's not that. He's vengeful. He's like, I'll do good if you do good to me. Like, if you fuck with me, I'm going to fuck with you right back just as hard. So he's very vengeful. I wouldn't think that's bad, though. But it's definitely not... he's definitely a great character because of that. Like everyone.
Yeah. Multiple dimensions.
Yeah. But as far as this universe, he's definitely one of the better characters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because if you think about it, all the purely innocent ones, they fucking died. The sister, purely innocent, dead. The sister's
taken
mother,
advantage of, and died.
Exactly. It's the Game of Thrones. It's the Game of Thrones mentality. If you're too good, and the mother, if you're too good for this world, the world is going to kill you, whether by someone else or like the mother, the universe will just kill you with cancer. So there's always something.
Oh,
you can't be
right.
too good.
The mother was nice too, and she died.
Yeah.
But
So
what
it's
about
like
the
all the-
grandparents, the grandma, and the uncle? They were nice people.
Yeah, and I don't really remember what happened to them actually.
I don't think nothing happens to them.
I don't think anything happened to them. Well, what happened to them is that everyone's fucking dead and they're depressed. So
That's right.
I guess it was all the chaos around them, and they're like, oh my god, what did we do to deserve this type shit? But yeah, directly nothing really happened to them, but yeah.
Damn.
But I think that was the overall theme of it. It's just like you need to be tough or else you're gonna die. But also, if you're tough, that'll kill you too. So it's just unforgiving. Like that to me is the perfect word to describe this movie. This story is unforgiving.
Yeah, you're right. It is very unforgiving. It's an unforgiving world, at least in their eyes, in that universe.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. Any last thoughts, Pedro?
No, that's it. We hit it all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, man, it was a downer of a movie.
Yeah.
Recommended for people who are open to that type of movie, who wants to feel something, I guess, and into dramas. You know? So.
No, definitely.
If you saw this movie, let us know what you thought. Did you enjoy it? How did you feel at the end of it all? Let us know your thoughts. Till next time.
Bye-bye.